Hey guys, Keith again with Bulletproof RC, and this is my Axial UMG10 builder's kit. Now, this is not my first SCX-10-2 chassis, but I do appreciate what Axial's done here to set the SCX-10-2 chassis apart from its previous offerings. Of course, this is in the 11.3 inch wheelbase, which I think is pretty cool. Short wheelbase vehicles drive quite a bit different than long wheelbase. And you know, the longer I'm into the crawling aspect of RC, the more I'm appreciating just slowing things down and appreciating the different handling characteristics of different vehicles. Don't necessarily have to have the absolute best crawling vehicle in my collection. Just to have different experiences every time I go out I'm finding it quite entertaining. In fact, I'm starting to get into the RC four-wheel drive side of things. That's my Trail Finder 2 over there. Haven't done a video on it yet. But yeah, I'm really enjoying just appreciating different vehicle characteristics on the trail. Did a couple of upgrades to this vehicle right out of the box. Just since it is a kit and you build it as you go, I didn't really see a need to build this thing completely stock and then tear it back down and put the things that I know an SCX-10-2 needs in it later. So I did it from the get-go. Couple things I did do. Alright, start off with, I want to talk about these wheels. These are from Alien Tack RC. Alien Tack's been around for a good while. I've purchased wheels from them for some time now, and pretty much buy my wheels from them exclusively because they offer inexpensive aluminum wheels for RC cars, and so far the quality has been top notch. I did have one problem with one of these wheels. It was my fault completely, but I did break off one of the screws in one of the hubs. So you know, that was just too much torque applied to a stainless steel screw, and those are quite small. They are 1.5 driver heads, but so are these around the outside, and you can see how much smaller those are. So yeah, if you get a set of these wheels, I wouldn't apply a lot of torque to those hubs. Just make sure you use blue Loctite sparingly, and you know, just snug them down, because you know, you got 6 screws. Yeah, that's 6 screws holding that little hub that is nothing but covering the nut. So they don't have 6 of them's going to hold it, and you don't have to have those things cranked down super tight. But anyway, I contacted Alien Tack. They sent me another wheel, no questions asked. I ordered 5 of them originally, and they didn't require me to send the one wheel back that had the broken off screw in it, so I actually have a spare, because in the rear you can't use the hub anyway if you use that spare tire carrier back there. So that is one of the good wheels, but I've still got a spare. I got the one with the broken off screw, so if I've managed to bang or mangle one of my wheels out in the field, I've got a spare. But inside the tires, that's Crawler Innovations dual stage foams, just to keep the sidewalls firm. You went with the Shapeways grill. I liked it better than the stock one, and gives it a uniqueness. I got 5mm LEDs. These are cool white, and I got 5mm LEDs also in the bumper, front and rear. Whites in the front, rear and the red in the rear. Ssd Axles with their optional aluminum diff cover. These are Samex RC knuckles with SSD hubs in the front. Those are the brass ones to give it 70 grams per wheel in the front of weight down low, non-rotational mass. Yeah, I did that to my original SCX-10-2, put weight on the axles, and it made it handle very well. In the rear, same thing. I wanted a little bit of weight back there because the rear of this vehicle is very light. I went with an SSD axle back here as well, and instead of going with SSD lockouts, I went with KYX because their rear lockouts with brass weights, these brass weights are 75 grams a piece, and their offering was much cheaper, so went that route. Let's go ahead and flip this body back. We'll talk about what's underneath here. Front fenders, inner fenders. These are just some I found off eBay. They were 20 bucks. I got front and rear, but only needed fronts for a vehicle like this. That's a JX servo. Been buying JX servos exclusively for some time now because of the price and power and reliability. They are all metal geared, and for about 40 bucks, it's just what I spent for that one. It's comparable to another servo that's $150 usually, so can't beat that. Jazz Rider makes these aluminum shock towers that I have in here, and these are shocks from my TRX4. If you're wondering why I use TRX4 shocks, it's because the Axial ones stick, and I was able to get the TRX4 shocks to not stick by using a small spacer in there where the lower cup mounts, and they're just smoother, so I use those instead. As far as electronics, got the Mamba X and a Hobbystar Pro 4. That motor has been in several vehicles, but it's done great. It's a 550 can, so it's got all the low end torque you could possibly imagine, especially paired with that Mamba X. And anyway, as long as it keeps running, and I'm going to keep using it. So yeah, it's a reuse, but it's a goodie. Other upgrades, I guess we'll have to flip the car over to look at those, because on top I don't see anymore. Underneath, I use the Hot Racing drive shafts. These actually use the stock Axial drive shaft ends. Forgot what you call it, CVDs, whatever you want to call them. Did have one small issue. These were for the SCX-10-2 Cherokee kit, so the rear was too long. These do come apart. As you can see, they've got the little nut carrier on the end. You can just screw that off, take it apart, and it's basically like a little dog bone inside here with a removable pin. So I actually took it off, cut this down in the rear, drilled a new hole, put it back together, and voila, it works. So I was glad I was able to salvage that. Because I used the Ssd Axles, and they wasn't the solid molded axles the Axial offers, I did have to use some link mounts and shock mounts from my previous SCX-10 kit that I had. And I was going to dye them black, but I got lazy, went ahead and installed them. But yeah, overall, not too displeased with the red under there, I guess. It didn't look terrible. And then let's see, the body. The body, I used a Gearhead RC Honcho roof rack. It mounted up great on here. That is Tamiya gunmetal, and Tamiya black here, and then in the rear I used Tamiya black again. I'm not real crazy about the rear section of this. I know most of it's used to conceal electronics, but I didn't want this being the highlight of the vehicle. I wanted the cab to be the highlight of the vehicle, so I used the flat exterior with the black underneath and just kind of blacked all that out. I think it turned out pretty good. Used bright silver here from Tamiya, and used very sparing decals. And overall, pretty happy. Had me a tag made for it as well, and a few scale items. But overall, that's it. Just a quick video, guys. Just want to catch you guys up on the Unimog, and once I have a chance to run this thing, I'll let you know what I think about the short wheelbase and the different characteristics that this brings. But as always, guys, like and subscribe. The shoe fits, my friends, and have a great day.